Please. Started. Okay, sorry, Karis, can we come back to you to go on the agenda item 5, please, equality impact assessment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide committee with an annual update on the Council's requirement to undertake equality impact assessments, an overview of our approach to those assessments and a summary of those that were actually undertaken in the last financial year. It is a requirement of the Equality Act 2010 that the Council must assess the impact of its policies and practices. This requirement states that the Council should have due regard to 3 key factors in its decision-making process, and these are to eliminate unlawful discrimination, harassment and victimisation, to advance equality of opportunity, and to foster good relations between people who have a shared protective characteristics and those who do not. The Equality Impact Assessment is a tool to assess whether new policies or services or functions, or indeed the removal of those services, could impact on different sectors of society in different ways. The use of the assessment is an opportunity to ensure that decisions are based on robust evidence and that they include a consideration of our actions that would help to avoid or mitigate any impact on individuals or groups. Training is available to staff, providing an overview of the equality impact assessment process, and there is guidance also to completing the assessment. During the period of this report, 26 Council employees have completed that training. In Appendix 2, there are details of the 68 assessment screenings which were undertaken during the last financial year. The screening determines whether or not the policy being assessed could be screened out, or whether a full equality impact assessment should be undertaken. Appendix 1 then details for you the 6 full assessments that were undertaken and that accompanied Cabinet reports during that same time period. So if I may, Chair, I would now take you to the recommendations in Section 9 of this morning's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Karis. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, before we go to the questions?
Happy to move, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy.
Second.
Thank you. That's seconded and moved. I'll move to the questions now. Leader, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the question's on page 61, 62. Just trying to understand the chart that was showing the number of staff who's undertaking the quality impact assessment training, some e-learning, some via workshops. And it shows numbers, but I'm wondering what that would be percentages-wise, as in percentage of those are expected to complete the training, because I'm assuming not everybody will do the training, or perhaps be required to do the training, but so the percentages be something, but a percentage of those that require to take the training. Because it appears low, maybe that's not low, but the 11 employees undertook the workshop, and 26 with the e-learning. Just wondering in comparison to terms where that is for last year, and is that something we need to improve on, or is that a good average?
Thank you, Leader. Karis.
I think this probably refers back to a similar question we had on the previous report, which this is a snapshot of what was undertaken during last year. What we're not telling you is how many of our staff should be undertaking this training and how many of them have. So it's that continuous figures that you need to see, isn't it? And, yeah. And I think that's probably something we need to pick up for you, Leader, and include when we report next year.
Is it possible to have that information sent out to us, though, rather than wait till next year, please, if that's okay? Thank you. Deputy, can I bring you in?
Thanks very much, Chair. So the purpose of the EIA is a tool to assess whether new or changes to existing policies, services or functions, or the removal of services could impact on the different sectors of society in different ways. Fully appreciate why an EIA is undertaken and that there is a legislative requirement that we do so. For me, the report doesn't give me any information as to the impact of those assessments. And for me, I need to understand what the impact, because otherwise it's just a tick box exercise. I appreciate that every policy, strategy, decision that we make in council needs to be undertaken through this process and needs to be shown due regard. But for me, I need to understand that it's doing the job that it needs to do, and what are the outcomes from those equality impact assessments? How are those strategies and policies changed, as an example? And I think that's the information that's missing. And can I suggest that we use this for next year's report as a way of evidencing that it's doing, that the tool is doing what it's supposed to be doing? Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Harris.
Again, I think that's a very valid point. I mean, we list in Appendix 1 the 6 that were actually presented to Cabinet and to Council during last year, where it was deemed that there was an impact, and they were included. I think there's a very legitimate point that we need to make sure that when these full assessments come through, that the issues that have been raised in those assessments are made very clear to you when you are receiving those reports and when you're discussing the implications of them. Often they will be an appendix to the report, and it may depend on the issue or how the report is presented as to whether or not you're actually fully aware of the issues that are in that impact assessment. So I would suggest that probably what we need to do is make sure that, first of all, it's clearly outlined for you in the report what the impact is, but also when the reports are presented again, it's a key issue that you need to be made aware of when you're making any decisions based on those reports.
Thank you, Keris. I can't see any other hands, so I'll ask my couple of questions that I've got, if that's okay. First question is, who is actually eligible to undertake the EI training? What level of training do you need to undertake a EI assessment? How often does this training need to be, how often do the staff need to be retrained in order to be compliant? How do we encourage directors to support their staff to do this training? And in your opinion, is 327 staff in the organisation, that's over 6,000, is that enough to take the training? Last question, who actually monitors the EIAs? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So with regards to the requirement of the training, my understanding is it's managers that are required to undertake the training, and there is the option of having the workshop as well as the e-learning module, and that would be governed by learning and development. One of the main pieces of guidance, I suppose, that I provide to staff when they're looking to carry out either a consultation or that we know an EIA is going to be required, I do always encourage staff to do the training prior to actually completing the assessment. Obviously that's not governed, and there isn't anyone currently solely responsible for monitoring those. So I think that's maybe something to be looked into for the future, though.
Thank you, Zoe. It is, isn't it? It's not really a lot of people. You know, we do have lots of reports coming to us, policies being changing, and yet we haven't, if you're saying it's the managers, so surely we should be asking every manager to be undertaking this training, really, because they need to be aware what's happening in their team. Thanks, Zoe. I'll bring Councillor Evans in next, please.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of the questions that I was posing have already been asked, so thank you for that. For me, it's just as simple as possibly looking at the box on page 61 where you've got your completions, just adding another column to how many managers we've got, completions, and how many's left to do. You know, and I think that then it shows progression as well, so and accountability, really. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. That's a really good point as to indicate what progression is and how we're encouraging managers to actually undertake those training. Okay, so we've had a mover and a seconder. Are we all in agreement with the report, please? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. I don't have any urgent items, so that's the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you so much for all those that contributed to the reports today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.